Imagine an archipelago of more than 7,000 islands, where crowded megacities meet lush rice terraces and white sand beaches. This is the Philippines, a country whose economy, much like its landscape, is a tapestry of contrasts and surprises. Sitting in the heart of Southeast Asia, it remains one of the most interesting and overlooked nations in the world. Just a decade ago, few believed the Philippines could catch up with its more prosperous neighbors. But from 2010 to 2024, the economy grew at an average rate of 5.26% per year, outpacing Thailand, Malaysia, and even Indonesia in some years. And in 2023, the Philippines became Southeast Asia's fastest-growing economy, overtaking both Vietnam and Malaysia. As of 2025, the Philippines has a nominal GDP close to $500 billion, putting it 32nd in the world. It's home to 115 million people, most of them young, ambitious, and moving to cities. And if you look at Manila's skyline today, it's not just old churches and jeepneys anymore. It's cranes, glass towers, and non-stop construction, a clear sign of how far the country's come. Despite this impressive growth, income inequality remains among the highest in the region. The richest 1% of Filipinos control more wealth than the bottom 70% combined. And if you've ever been to Manila, you've seen it. Luxury condos and high-end malls right across the street from markets where people are getting by on less than $10 a day. The average Filipino's output remains roughly a third of the global average. A disappointing figure for a country blessed with such abundant natural resources. So how did the sick man of Asia transform into the region's bright spot? What's fueling this robust growth? Can the Philippines build the industries needed to compete globally? And finally, what challenges lie ahead in the next decade? If you picture the Philippines from above, it is essentially a scattered collection of 7,641 islands, though only about 2,000 are inhabited. Unlike Thailand or Vietnam, it's completely surrounded by water, with the South China Sea to the west, the Philippine Sea to the east, and the Celebes Sea to the south. This fractured geography creates some fascinating economic challenges. The transportation becomes incredibly complex and expensive. The cost of moving goods within the Philippines is among the highest in Southeast Asia. Shipping a container from Manila to Davao, the country's third largest city, can sometimes cost more than shipping it from Manila to Hong Kong. This island structure has also shaped where Filipinos live. Manila, the capital region, is home to over 13 million people, one of the most densely populated urban areas in the world. Meanwhile, some islands remain sparsely populated, with limited infrastructure connecting them to the economic mainstream. But this archipelago sits in a strategic sweet spot, right at the crossroads of major shipping routes between the Pacific and Indian Oceans. It's within easy reach of China, Japan, and some of the biggest economies in Asia. That's one reason the Philippines has seen a real surge in foreign investment in recent years. It now ranks 13th on the FDI Confidence Index for emerging economies, alongside Chile and Turkey. But when we talk about foreign influence in the Philippines, there's one relationship that stands above all others: the United States. The U.S. business investments have forged a strategic partnership with the Philippine government that have evolved to address changing regional security dynamics, particularly in response to growing tensions in the South China Sea. The relationship between the United States and the Philippines runs deep. It's built on shared values, mutual interests, and strong people-to-people connections. In fact, surveys consistently show that Filipinos consider the U.S. one of their country's most trusted partners. For decades, the U.S. has also been a key military ally. Since the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, the two countries have stood side by side, making this America's oldest alliance in the Indo-Pacific. As of May 2025, about 9,000 U.S. troops are stationed in the Philippines for Balikatan, the joint military exercises held every year. It's one of the biggest drills of its kind, and it's not just for show. The growing U.S. military presence is meant to push back against China's assertiveness in the South China Sea. The U.S. military presence has contributed significantly to local business and commerce. At its peak, U.S. bases in the Philippines directly employed around 70,000 workers, making the U.S. the second largest employer in the country after the Philippine government. Surveys show that a strong majority of Filipinos view the U.S. military presence in a positive light. But not everyone feels that way. Some Filipinos, especially activists, see it as a threat to national sovereignty. They worry it could pull the Philippines into a conflict between the U.S. and China. There have also been concerns about the conduct of U.S. troops, including past incidents involving crime or abuse, and some are uneasy about legal agreements that can shield U.S. personnel from Philippine laws. Clearly, the Philippines has a relationship with the United States on many levels. The big question is whether this entanglement is a gift or a curse, especially as the country becomes a key player in U.S. economic strategy. Think about it. This economic relationship goes back more than a century. After the Spanish-American War in 1898, the Philippines became a U.S. territory and stayed under American administration for nearly 50 years. During that time, the Philippine economy wasn't just influenced by the U.S., it was fundamentally shaped by it. Industries, trade routes, even the education system were all designed to align with American interests. And even after independence in 1946, those deep economic ties didn't go away. In fact, many economists say the country developed what's known as a path dependency, where past decisions continue to shape future outcomes. And it's still playing out today. Between 2013 and 2024, the U.S. was the fifth largest source of approved foreign investment in the Philippines, with around $3.6 billion coming in. That's about 7% of all foreign investment. But more importantly, in 2024, the U.S. remained the top destination for Philippine exports, buying up 16.6% of everything the country sold abroad. It's worth over $12 billion. And the relationship is still evolving. Japan, the U.S., and the Philippines recently announced the Luzon Economic Corridor, the first major infrastructure partnership of its kind in the Indo-Pacific. The goal, to connect Subic Bay, Clark, Manila, and Batangas with coordinated investments in roads, ports, clean energy, and even semiconductor supply chains. Today, the Philippines is becoming Asia's economic bright spot, competing vigorously with its regional rivals. It has finally shed its "sick man of Asia" reputation, a label acquired during the economic collapse towards the end of the Ferdinand Marcos regime in the mid-1980s. What many people don't realize is that the Philippines wasn't always lagging behind. In the early 1950s, the Philippines was actually among the richest and most advanced countries in Asia, second only to Japan in per capita income. Manila was a sophisticated commercial hub with infrastructure that was the envy of the region. However, between the 1970s and 1980s, especially during the dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos, the country experienced widespread corruption, cronyism, and catastrophic mismanagement of the economy. While its neighbors, the so-called Asian tigers of Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and South Korea, raced ahead with rapid industrialization and export-driven growth, the Philippines stagnated. As neighbors built world-class manufacturing bases and international brands, the Philippines struggled with inefficient political and economic systems, accumulated massive external debt, and endured recurring economic crises. For many ordinary Filipinos, this meant not just stagnation, but an actual decline in living standards. The turning point came with the People Power Revolution in 1986. Although economic recovery was slow and uneven at first, by the 2010s, the Philippines had gained enough momentum to earn a new nickname: Asia's Rising Tiger. Economic reforms took hold, governance improved, and growth accelerated to levels that caught the world's attention. So, how did the Philippines transform from the sick man of Asia into one of the region's most dynamic economies? From 2010 to 2024, the Philippines achieved impressive economic growth, averaging over 5.5% annually, an impressive streak that continued through global financial turbulence and COVID. GDP per capita more than doubled from $2,400 in 2010 to over $4,300 in 2025. Poverty rates declined from 23.5% in 2015 to under 17% today. What's remarkable is how the Philippines achieved this growth. While its neighbors built their economies around manufacturing exports, the Philippines found a different path, one based on people, services, and domestic consumption. Walk through hospitals in Saudi Arabia, board luxury cruise ships, or visit homes in Hong Kong, and you'll find Filipinos everywhere. The country has exported its most valuable resource, its people. Over 10 million Filipinos, nearly 10% of the population, work overseas as nurses, seafarers, domestic helpers, engineers, and countless other professions. These overseas Filipino workers send home a staggering $36.1 billion annually, equivalent to about 8.9% of the entire Philippine GDP. To put this in perspective, that's more than the country earns from its top export industries combined. But the Philippines isn't just exporting labor, it's also becoming a global hub for digital exporting services. Visit the gleaming office towers of Manila, Cebu, and other urban centers, and you'll find hundreds of thousands of young Filipinos who power the global digital economy. The Philippines has grown into one of the world's leading business process outsourcing destinations. What started with simple call centers has evolved into a sophisticated $30 billion industry, providing customer service, technical support, healthcare information management, animation, game development, and increasingly, AI-assisted services. The industry employs 1.5 million Filipinos directly and supports another 4.5 million jobs indirectly, now accounting for nearly 8% of GDP. English proficiency is certainly part of this success. The Philippines ranks 20th globally on the EF English Proficiency Index, ahead of all its Southeast Asian neighbors except Singapore. The BPO industry has completely changed the game for urban economies in the Philippines and helped create a brand new middle class. Workers in this sector often earn 2 to 3 times the national average, which drives both spending and investment. While this outsourcing boom is impressive, it might also be holding the country back. Some experts believe it's actually contributing to industrial stagnation. It's like everyone wants a white-collar job now, sitting in an office, working at a computer, while fewer people are interested in building things, working in factories, or developing local industries. Because the Philippines is an archipelago with limited land to work with, it faces some tough challenges when it comes to industrial development. A lot of the infrastructure needed to connect the islands is either underdeveloped or in some places doesn't exist at all. It makes it incredibly hard to build manufacturing hubs or create smooth supply chains. Unlike mainland neighbors like Vietnam or Thailand, where you can develop massive industrial corridors, the Philippines just isn't built that way. Geography alone makes manufacturing and large-scale transport tough to pull off. If you take a look at the Fortune Global 500 list, you won't find a single company from the Philippines. And that's surprising, because the country has a large, young population and a growing economy. But when it comes to producing globally competitive firms, it still lags behind regional peers like South Korea, Taiwan, and even Thailand. A big reason for this is brain drain. The Philippines continues to lose highly skilled professionals for better pay and opportunities abroad. Their remittances help keep the economy afloat, but the long-term cost is huge. Fewer innovators, fewer leaders, and major talent gaps across key industries. This mix of geographic challenges and ongoing brain drain has pushed the Philippines toward a consumption-driven economic model. It makes sense. The country is young, really young, with a median age of just 25.7. That means a population eager to spend, and more people now have the means to do so. Just walk into any of the country's 230-plus shopping malls, yes, the Philippines is truly the mall capital of Asia, and you'll see it a vibrant, consumer-driven culture on full display. And surprisingly, this model has worked, especially during global downturns. When the 2008 financial crisis hit export-heavy economies like Thailand and Malaysia, The Philippines kept growing. Why? Because nearly 75% of its GDP comes from domestic consumption, one of the highest rates in Asia. Everything in economics is a trade-off. The consumption-driven economy has led to persistent trade deficits. The Philippines imports more than it exports, to the tune of around a $5 billion deficit a year, which is a huge trade gap to fill for an economy of this size. As countries grow, strong institutions are essential to support sustainable development. The Philippines has a talented workforce and valuable global connections, but other forces are at play, forces that could threaten economic stability more than market competition. Corruption in the Philippines is an open secret, deeply entrenched across many levels of government and business. The country ranks 114th out of 180 in Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index, significantly below the regional average. From misuse of public funds to old-fashioned kickbacks and bribes, corruption makes domestic industries and local businesses less likely to receive support. This is especially damaging in a country where public trust in government is already fragile. The Philippines also ranks 95th in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. Starting a business here can test even the most determined entrepreneur's patience. If the Philippines can get corruption under control, its natural resources could help drive real inclusive development, but only if backed by serious reforms and governance. The decision lies with the Filipino people and their leaders. But what's at stake reaches far beyond the country's 7,641 islands. In a world hungry for sustainable growth models, what happens here will be watched closely. After all, the Philippines has already surprised the world once, rising from the sick man of Asia to one of Southeast Asia's most dynamic economies. The next transformation, toward truly shared prosperity, could be even more powerful.